In the 1950s, social and political stability in Paraguay had been severely eroded due to more than 2 decades of crises, like the Second Paraguayan Civil War, and the pro-Nazi sympathies of former President Higinio Morenigo. President Federico Chávez, who had declared a state of siege and initiated a crackdown against his political opponents shortly after taking office, faced an uncertain economic situation in Paraguay and turned to central bank president Epifanio Méndez Fleitas to spearhead a national economic recovery. His attempts to convince Chávez to seek support from the Argentine government of Juan Perón proved unpopular with conservative elements of the Colorado Party, and Fleitas resigned in January 1954. Despite his departure, Méndez continued to enjoy support from some factions of the party, as well as Army Major Virgilio Candia, a deputy to Cavalry Commander Colonel Nestor Ferrer. Ferrer was a strong supporter of President Chávez. A rivalry had also begun to develop between the government and the army due to the decision of Chávez to give the police heavy weaponry, which was opposed by the army's commanding general, Alfredo Stroessner. On Monday, May 3, 1954, Ferrer ordered the arrest of Candia due to suspicions of him plotting against Chávez. This provided the opportunity for Stroessner to propose an alliance between the army and the supporters of Epifanio Méndez Fleitas against the government. The coup began at 8 p.m. on Tuesday, May 4, 1954, with an attack on police headquarters in Asunción by commandos from the Paraguayan Army's elite Battalion 40 led by Mario Ortega. During the assault, the chief of police Roberto Petit was shot and died from his wounds in a nearby hospital. President Chávez initially sought refuge inside the Francisco López Military College and offered to promote its director, Marshal Samaniego, to head of the Paraguayan army. But Samaniego was an old friend of Alfredo Stroessner and immediately arrested Chávez. During an emergency session of the Colorado Party leadership convened on May 5, Chávez was requested to formally resign the presidency. The resignation of Chávez resulted in Colorado Party chairman Tomás Romero Barrera becoming the interim president. The Colorado Party nominated Stroessner as their candidate for president in an election on July 11, which he won. The party saw Stroessner's presidency as a temporary solution to its internal bickering and indecision, and planned to eventually replace him. He had no base of support within the party, which was split between backers of Chávez and Méndez Fleitas. Over the next 3 years, as part of an effort to consolidate his position, Stroessner worked to sideline leaders of both factions of their party. While Méndez Fleitas was briefly reinstalled as president of the central bank by Stroessner, he was again forced to resign. In 1955 he attempted to rally his supporters within the army to overthrow Stroessner, but the plot failed and he had to leave the country. Virgilio Candia was promoted to the post of his former boss, Nestor Ferrer, as commander of the cavalry, but also faced dismissal along with other Méndez Fleitas supporting officers. The former president, Chávez, was sent to France as Paraguayan ambassador. Lieutenant Colonel Mario Ortega, commander of Battalion 40, was appointed the new chief of police, the first in a long line of army personnel to head Paraguayan law enforcement. Nestor Ferrer was briefly jailed, but later released and given command of the Reserve Officer Corps, a post he held until his retirement. The former interim president, Romero, would serve as a cabinet minister under Stroessner, who would serve as president until February 3, 1980.